You know that moment when you check your savings account, see your balance and think, why does my money feel like it's disappearing? You're not imagining it. Here's the thing. Sometimes, the banks and governments actually pay you less than 0% just for holding your money. Yeah, negative interest rates. Sounds crazy, right? But this isn't some theoretical math problem. They're real, they're happening, and they're quietly shaping how we all save, spend, and invest. Imagine depositing $10,000 in your savings account today, and a year later, you open it to find only $9,950. Not because of a robbery or a bad investment, but because the bank charged you for the privilege of keeping your money. That's negative interest rates in action. And if you're like most people, you probably think, that's not me. That only happens in Europe or some weird economic textbook. Not exactly. This is closer to home than you think. My name is Charlie, and I spend way too much time thinking about how money actually works behind the scenes, especially the parts no one talks about. If you're someone who's frustrated watching your savings grow slower than a snail, or worse, shrinking over time, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, the mainstream financial advice says, save money, invest wisely, don't worry about interest rates too much. But here's the thing. In a world of negative interest rates, that advice isn't just outdated. It could actually cost you money. First, let's get on the same page. Negative interest rates basically flip the normal rules of finance upside down. Normally, you earn interest when you deposit money in a bank, maybe 1%, 2%, 3%. You leave $10,000 in your account, and a year later you've got $10,200. Sweet. But with negative interest rates, you're paying the bank to hold your money. For example, if your bank charges a negative 0.5% rate, that $10,000 becomes $9,950 after a year. That's right. You literally lose $50 for sitting on cash. Here's what most people don't realize. This isn't just some weird European experiment. The European Central Bank has had negative rates since 2014. Japan's central bank has been in negative territory since 2016. And guess what? Many economists argue that this is slowly creeping into other markets too. It's subtle, but it's real. Why negative interest rates exist? Now, you might be thinking, why would anyone ever do that? Here's the interesting part. Negative interest rates are a tool. Governments and central banks use them to stimulate spending and investment during economic slumps. Think of it like this. If keeping your money in a bank slowly costs you money, you're incentivized to do one of two things. Spend it, buy a car, home, or gadgets. Invest it, stocks, bonds, real estate. That's the psychological trick at play. People are wired to avoid loss. Losing $50 in a year feels bad. So even if they normally hoard cash, negative rates push them to take action. Here's a mind-blowing stat. After the ECB introduced negative rates in 2014, European consumer spending rose by 1.2% in just 6 months. Tiny, but measurable. That's millions of people subtly nudged into action. The math behind it. Let's break down some real numbers so this isn't just theory. Suppose you deposit $50,000 in a bank with a negative interest rate of minus 0.75% per year. Year 1, $50,000 to $49,625. Year 2, $49,625 to $49,257. Year 3, $49,257 to $48,890. In 3 years, you've lost over $1,100 just for keeping your money in a safe place. Now, imagine if you had $500,000 in cash. That's $11,000 gone in 3 years. And this is where it gets really interesting. Banks often disguise these fees under service charges or inflation adjustments, so most people never even notice. Here's the psychology part. Humans are notoriously bad at understanding small, incremental losses. This is called the pain of paying effect. You feel it more when you buy coffee for $5 than when your $50,000 savings slowly shrinks by $375 a year. Negative interest rates exploit that psychological blind spot. You're losing money in tiny, almost invisible increments. And because it's not a single shocking event, You often don't react, until one day you realize your cash has eroded significantly. Psychological drivers. Here's the psychology part. Humans are notoriously bad at understanding small, incremental losses. This is called the pain of paying effect. You feel it more when you buy coffee for $5 than when your $50,000 savings slowly shrinks by $375 a year. Negative interest rates exploit that psychological blind spot. You're losing money in tiny, almost invisible increments. And because it's not a single shocking event, you often don't react, until one day you realize your cash has eroded significantly. Now, some of you are thinking, Charlie, this is just theoretical. Banks won't do this here. Maybe. But here's the thing. Central banks can influence market rates in many indirect ways. Even if your account doesn't charge negative rates yet, other instruments like bond yields, savings bonds, and CDS can already reflect negative territory. It's not sci-fi. It's happening quietly. Another objection I hear, I'll just keep cash at home. Sure, hiding cash under a mattress avoids negative rates. But now you face inflation. A 3% annual inflation rate on $50,000 means you lose $1,500 in real purchasing power each year. So, hiding cash is actually a losing strategy too. So, what can you do? Here's what most people don't realize. They don't have to lose. 1. Diversify into productive assets. Invest in stocks, ETFs, or real estate. Even small amounts can outperform negative rate losses. For example, a 5% stock market return on $50,000 equals $2,500 a year. That's far better than letting $375 disappear in a bank. 2. Look for accounts with positive real returns. Some online banks, credit unions, and investment accounts still offer rates above inflation. Doing a little research can protect your savings. 3. Pay down high-interest debt. It sounds counterintuitive, but paying off debt acts like a guaranteed return equal to your interest rate. If your credit card charges 18% annually, paying it off is better than any low-return savings option. 4. Think psychologically. Set rules for money movement. Automatic investments, automated transfers, and routine financial check-ins prevent stealth losses from catching you off guard. Here's where it gets really interesting. Negative interest rates also create weird opportunities. Some investors are now paying to store money in government bonds because they believe markets will drop less than inflation. Weird, right? Banks sometimes lend money to large corporations for free, literally giving loans with negative interest. That's the invisible game most retail investors don't see. Even art, wine, and collectibles are seeing a surge as alternative stores of value because traditional cash savings are losing power. It's like a secret financial underworld where normal rules are upside down, and most people are completely unaware. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine, let's call him Alex, had $100,000 in a savings account in Germany during the negative interest period. He ignored the warnings. 2 years later, after paying 0.5% annual fees, he had lost over $1,000 without touching the account. Meanwhile, a colleague invested the same $100,000 in a simple index ETF. 2 years later, $10,000 gain? Same money, same time frame. Completely different outcome. The moral: the safe choice isn't always safe. Knowledge and strategy matter. So, what's the takeaway? If you're holding cash in a world where interest rates are zero, or worse, negative, you're quietly losing wealth. You don't need to be a finance wizard to protect yourself. Understand where your money is. Move it into productive assets. Pay attention to hidden fees and inflation. Make choices that work with money psychology, not against it. Here's what most people don't realize. Small decisions today compound over years. And in finance, ignorance isn't bliss, it's costly. If you want to make your money work for you instead of quietly disappearing, start applying these strategies today. And if this video helped you see the hidden rules of money in a new light, hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up. Because trust me, there's a lot more your bank isn't telling you. And I'll break it down in plain English. Remember, financial freedom isn't about luck. It's about knowledge, strategy, and taking action before the system silently chips away at your wealth.